This is
The
Occult
Beatles.
Hello, my name's Matt Sergio, the proprietor of the website The Occult Beatles, and also ConspiroMedia, a website that takes a closer look at the 1960s so-called counterculture movement of the UK, and particularly London, for any evidence and clues that it was a socially engineered psyop. As I'm recording this, it's November 30th, 2025, and the reason for this recording is to give you a heads up for the forthcoming release of two videos I've been involved in that will be released over the Christmas holidays on my site, ConspiroTV. Both the videos will be released on Christmas Day, and what they are the first in what looks to become a multi-episode deep dive into what I certainly think to be some compelling connections between the Beatles and the Asher family. Connections that appear to me to connect the Ashers and the entity that is the Beatles in such a way as to suggest that this entity that is the Beatles was being steered, being directed by the Ashers from the days of the group's inception right up into its breakup in 1970 and beyond. Now, if I'm not coming across clear enough in what I'm going on about here, no worries. If you watch the first of the two videos on Christmas Day, I think you'll get the idea. Now, in case you don't know, the Asher family, there's Jane Asher, a British actress. She was Paul McCartney's long-term girlfriend during the 1960s. There's Peter Asher, her brother, and a pop musician during the 1960s. He went on to work at the Beatles company Apple. There's Richard Asher, Peter and Jane's father, who was an eminent doctor who died under suspicious circumstances at the Asher family home at 57 Wimpole Street in London. And Margaret Asher, Peter and Jane's mother, who was a music teacher who some would say coincidentally, others would say by no means coincidentally, gave oboe lessons to Beatles producer George Martin some 15 years before he worked with the Beatles, when the Beatles didn't even exist. Some 15 years before he'd even met them, before he even knew them. What's the chances, eh? Margaret's maiden name was Elliot, and this Elliot bloodline was certainly no regular run-of-the-mill bloodline. At this point, I'll mention Dom and Chris Waterson of the popular Sheep Farm Studios podcasts and videos. The videos that I'll be posting up on Christmas Day are a guest collaboration with the Sheep Farm lads. I'm the guest, and they'll be releasing the videos on their YouTube page as well on Christmas Day as well. Myself and Dom and Chris have worked together before, back in 2023, as guests on Mark Devlin's Good Vibrations podcast series, where we looked at the second so-called Summer of Love of 1988-89. If you know anything about Sheep Farm, you'll know that Dom likes to focus a lot of his research energies on bloodlines and genealogies of well-known people from different areas of public life. Politicians, music stars, actors, TV personalities, philosophers, authors. And earlier this year, in a collaboration with, I'd say, the most well-known of all speakers on matters pertaining to the conspiratorial and the occult within the world of the Beatles, Mike Williams of Sage of Quay. Earlier this year, Mike, Dom and Chris released a couple of videos about the Ashers and the Beatles, part one of which is titled The Bloodlines of Jane Asher, and part two is titled Mind Control and the Royal Bloodlines of Jane Asher. My collaboration with Dom and Chris, which is coming up on Christmas Day, as I say, is an addendum to those two presentations with Mike. A lot of what Mike and Dom and Chris talk about in their two presentations will be looked at by myself and Mike and Dom in much, much greater depth in the videos coming up on Christmas Day and in episodes beyond. Now, if you haven't checked out those presentations featuring Mike, you might want to. I'll add them as links. You'll be able to find them at my site, The Occult Beatles. I'll also include links to a past multi-episode Sheep Farm video presentation titled Huxley's Brave New World Order, which has some connection to this new Ashes series. Now, I don't think that you have to watch the Huxley series and the Mike Williams presentations in order to watch my videos with Dom and Chris, but I mention them all the same as a reference, just in case you do. If you do watch the videos with Mike, who of course supports the view that Paul McCartney was replaced by Billy, as was written about in the weighty tome The Memoirs of Billy Shears by Thomas E. U. Harriot, you'll hear him and Dom mention a fellow researcher, Stacey, who's also looked into the Asher lineage. Mike, a musician, I'll also note here, is a hypnotherapist, something worth pointing out if you do go and check his Ashes collab with Dom and Chris. Incidentally, just to let you know that I'm also currently putting together the next couple of chapters for my ongoing series on Conspiro TV, that being 60s London's Underground, The Dark Depths. So look out for that in 2026. And also in December this year, on December the 8th, fingers crossed, myself and Mark Devlin and Desiree Hall are hoping to present a new live stream episode of our topical Beatles podcast series, Magical Mystery Talk. And I say fingers crossed because we've never hosted a live stream before. So fingers crossed. Keep tuned and thanks for watching.